So the sport of Formula One has obviously changed a lot in the last 10 years. What are one or two things that stick in your mind as the biggest things that have changed?
Well, there's been so many changes really in our sport. I think that the biggest change really is that when I started in Formula One, there was virtually no data whatsoever. So basically you went out there with a car, you did a few laps, you came into the garage, and your engineer would ask you, how's the car? Do you have understeer? Do you have oversteer? And you would tell him what you felt, okay? So that he could make the convenient changes to make the car faster. Now, we have over 200 sensors in the chassis, 200 sensors in the engine. So when you come into the garage, basically your race engineer knows more than you. You know, that is the difference. So he knows exactly what the tire temperatures were, what was your speed, where were you braking, how much brake pressure you were applying. And it's not because they plugged in and downloaded all the information. It's just because during the lap, all the data was transferred in real time, not only to the garage, but also to our campus back in the UK. The amount of data and the quality of data, the speed of the data that is circulating basically is enormous, and this is the biggest change that I've seen, really.
I mean, the sport today versus 20, 25 years ago, it's like unrecognizable. I mean, what were the big moments that changed things over the last 20 years?
Yes, I mean, it's a great question, really, because data is one, obviously, you know, the eruption of data, the use of data, and bear in mind that when I started, there was no data, so as a driver, it was very difficult to improve. You had a teammate, for example, who has exactly the same car, same tires, same engine, same everything, but he's like, imagine that he's half a second faster than you, which half a second in our business is like night and day. It's from being the fast driver to a very average driver. So if he's half a second faster back then, you didn't know what he was doing, where he was braking, how he was applying the throttle, what lines was he taking, you know. But now we come out of the car, he's half a second, and you think, it's no problem. I look in the data, I know where he's braking, how he's doing it, how much he's turning the wheel in that corner, which corner he's faster than me, and why. So even if you want to go deep into the analysis through the GPS lines, you know exactly what inch of the track he's using that you're not, you know. So then you jump into the car again, bang, and you find that half a second, you know.
But it's not just your teammates too, you know that for your competitors.
Exactly, good point, because the thing is that, you know, data came, you started comparing against your teammate, but now we are in a situation where if any of the other drivers are faster than us, we know exactly where as well, because we can compare nearly in real time, not real time, but close to real time, thanks to the GPS. So we know their positioning, we know the track, you know, we know the distance, so we can calculate their speed. We really know exactly where are they faster or slower, and that helps us improve our car because we know where to focus on, you know. So it has changed massively. And then another really big thing, you know, a very disruptive arrival was the simulator. When the simulators arrived, all simulation tools, but especially the simulator for the drivers, it meant that you didn't need to go every week to test the real car at a real racetrack.
When did the simulators get good enough that...
Yeah, I mean, look, the first simulator I ever tried was in 2003. I did a few laps and I threw up, you know, because they were not good enough.
I about felt like that yesterday when I was trying one for the first time.
But that is quite normal. Back then it was, you know, it was like a new tool. It was very futuristic. And there was for the first time you had a simulator with a motion platform. It was a 2D screen. And I did a few laps and immediately I felt really bad, you know, so I threw up. I really had a bad experience. But then gradually 3D came in, the motion platforms, the latency levels, it just reduced, so it was a lot faster. You know, you jumped into the simulator and it's just like, wow, it feels like the real car, you know. You have a snap oversteer, you have understeer, you can feel the distance when you brake, and that's when also the team started cutting testing. Because everything goes together, you know. I mean, the teams invested basically in real test, real cars, real people, real tracks. And then they start diverting from that because the regulations stopped us from testing or doing unlimited testing into They invested into simulators, and that's when everything got really fast. And now the reality is that the new kids, the new drivers, they will always be better than our old generation, because since they are kids, they are karting, so racing in karting, but when they get home, they are in their own simulators at home, racing each other. So they're 24 hours a day nearly, like racing, since they are 4 or 5 years old. So of course they will be stronger than us, because the tools they have are so much better.
Let's move away from the driver experience into the fan experience. What is different today than, call it, 10, 15 years ago as a fan of F1?
I think that everything has evolved massively for the fans, and it has made it more appealing. But the fact is that now you have social media. 43% of our audience, Formula One fans, are under 35 years old. So they're very young. And when I was racing, they were 45 over,
Yeah.
So we have a much younger audience. 42% are female. In my time, it was mainly a male sport. So everything has changed thanks to social media. And I speak with the people and the new fans, and the new fans are not so much interested in lap time. They're not interested in if one driver is 1/10 faster than the other. They're interested in the private lives of the drivers, in what they do, how they dress, if they have a dog or not, or it's great to see, but it's just very different from why I fell in love with motorsport.
What is the most misunderstood element of performance in Formula One?
Yeah, look, we are in a technological sport, and we're talking about data, sensors, but I think that at one point, we forget that drivers are human beings, And the problem, we have so many things to concentrate on, and sometimes give excuses about why we're not winning. The tires, the aerodynamics, the engine, this or the other, But, tennis players cannot really blame the racket or they blame themselves when they don't win. And we, in this sport, there's a point that we forget that race drivers have bad days as well. And you also have to look inside yourself, and not blame always the different elements, external elements. We can change things as well, doing things better. The performance is inside yourself.
Right.
It's inside yourself. There's always a way of digging deeper and finding that extra milliseconds we're talking about.
What is the most important thing to create a winning culture?
Unity, I would say, just keeping everyone together. I've been in many Formula One teams. Every team I've joined, they tell you, welcome to this team, we are a family. The reality is only the teams that are a family and are united will win. And when you realize that is when you start not winning. Because then is when you realize the strength, the inner strength. Unity is key, I would say.
What is one change that you've made over the years that you would say has impacted your performance the most?
Suffering. Really. When I was 20, I went to race in Japan. I didn't want to go to race in Japan. I wanted to race in Europe, live at home.
You were a champion racing in Japan, right?
Yes. But I didn't have any sponsorship. I couldn't continue my career. I needed to go to Japan. I had a very good offer from a very good team in Japan. And I went there for days. I was crying in a room alone, thinking I want to go back home. No mobile phones, nothing. There's no I take a plane back and come back. No. It's just the old way. You not connected at all. No Instagram, nothing. No friends, alone, crying. And now I look back, and that made me a champion, or at least made me win the championships in Japan, because suffering makes you stronger. That was the turning point in my career, that I was a promising driver, but suddenly I started winning everything. And it was because when I was driving, I had suffered so much that everything was easy. When I saw a car behind trying to overtake me, I just knew he was not going to overtake me, It is a lot different now, the new generations, don't realize how much you have to suffer in the sport to become a champion. They want to be champions like this. It doesn't happen that way, you know?
What is the most important factor that helps you adapt under pressure?
I mean, the easy question, answer would be resilience, you know? If you manage to adapt to changes under a lot of pressure, you found it, a true champion. I haven't seen many people that can do that, you know?
What is something that you used to believe to be true that you've completely changed your mind on over the years?
I think that, what I've realized is that practice makes the difference. Talent is important, but it's not the most important thing. I've seen drivers with a lot more talent than myself, but they gave up, they were not motivated, they found other things that were more appealing, or, when you practice in the simulator, when you are every day practicing, you become stronger. And if you look at the biggest champions in F1, I mean, we have Fernando Alonso in our team. I go karting with him, and we've been rivals, we've been friends, we've been enemies, we've been everything. But I admire him because he is still, with 44 years old, he has so much passion for what he does. I don't have the passion he has, you know. And we go karting, and the guy is like 24 hours a day practicing, you know.
Wow.
And it's not that he's very talented alone, you know. It's just like bang, every day he's on one type of car, a go-kart, a rally car, a gravel road car. It's whatever. It's just and practice makes you the best.
It's like Kobe Bryant took more practice shots every day than anyone else in the league. Seems highly correlated with him being the best player in the league at the time.
Yeah, it's just, there's no secrets, I mean, one thing that I've learned in this sport is that there's no secrets. No secrets. And when you win, it's not luck. It's not because things align by themselves. There's always a reason.
Speaking of secrets, I know you said there are no secrets. Strategy. We hear a lot about strategy in F1. How do you define strategy?
Well, race drivers are very bad on strategy generally. I had a boss, he always used to say, race drivers are always very bad in strategy because you can only think to your next race. And your next race is next week or in 2 weeks' time. So businessmen are much better because we can think long term. You know what? He's right. I am very bad on strategy, to be honest, because my mentality is always to my next race. I'm not racing anymore, but I still have inherited this DNA, So I think strategy is being able to think long term with a lot of discipline, which people don't have. But this is something that race drivers, we have to really look long term, and we can't. Unfortunately, we have a different DNA.
Well, I mean, if the car is changing 70% during a season, and then changing that much again, probably, or more for the next season, like you can't just be looking at the next race if you want to win this season or next season or
yes.
this season. Yeah.
Well, let's say that the best drivers are, possibly can think long term and have this ability, but it's quite difficult to find race drivers that we can really look that further forward. And you need people in the team, especially the managers, that are capable of directing the whole organization in that sense. It's very difficult because you have to keep the motivation going, But anyway, that's part of the what you were talking about, strategy, long-term vision.
At the end of the day, what matters more for an F1 team to win, the driver or the engineering?
Unfortunately, the engineering. Yes, this is the truth about the sport, is that the driver is just one more part of this huge structure, and you just need the best people around you to actually win a race. It's like a striker in a soccer team. You can be the best, but if the team doesn't provide you with the balls to score, you will not win. You will not score. So that's the reality, And I think there's a really sad phrase in our sport that says that race drivers are as good as their car is. It is true that we depend very much on our equipment, and that's why we always need to have the best people around us. Best drivers always end up driving the best cars, though. This is how I always think, because there's too many people, no, but he never had the best car, or, and if they look at my career, you were never lucky enough with a good car, or whatever. Well, I probably did things that were not as good as other drivers. Maybe not in the car, but outside the car, some decisions that were not right. So, you have to think in that critical way.
All right, let's think about a race weekend like this. What are the sort of top 1 or 2 technical issues that the team is most likely to encounter?
Well, there's so many things that happen and that go wrong, can go wrong. First thing I have to say is that sometimes, engineers are obsessed about the screens. So they look at the data in such an obsessive way that, for example, one time I was racing in Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, and I had my race engineer over the radio, and he said, "What's wrong? Why are you so slow?" And I said, "What are you talking about? It started raining." But the guy was only looking at the data, was looking at the speed race. So it's sometimes if you put the hand out, of the pit wall, and then you realize it's raining, that's why I was slowing down, and everyone was slowing down. So, but anyway, you have to have an open mind as well, and you have to have people that look at the data, you have to have people that tell your race engineer that's raining, so that is very, very important to have an open mind. Otherwise, you end up in this type of scenarios.
How do the engineers and the crew prepare for the weekend?
The crew, the mechanics, for example, they do their own personal training program to be fit, because you also obviously have to, the mechanics that take part on a pit stop, for example, they are strong, they have to be fast, they have to be alert, and the only way of doing that is basically just training in the gym, follow some sessions together, a lot of practice. We have a pit stop simulator as well, just to simulate a car coming in and changing the tires.
Wow.
So they are just constantly practicing and keeping fit. So everything has changed a lot, and that's the only way of getting pit stops over 2 seconds or under 2 seconds, And then the engineers, they go over historic events, like coming to Las Vegas, for example. They will go to the last 2 years where we've been racing here, and they will do a lot of practice, free practice 1, free practice 2, what problems we encounter, how we solve them, what we did, what changes we did to the car. Then they will go to the simulator. They will have the race drivers to try different setups, so that when we come here, all the homework has been done in-house. We know our car, we know the drivers know the track. We have a starting setup which is virtually just fine-tuned during the weekend. It's incredible how much the car, the race car will be the same car as came out of the simulator before we came here. So it's all that type of preparation that is quite disciplined and methodic. We always do the same, but drivers spend a couple of days in the simulator each, just to make sure that when they arrive, they won't take time to get up to speed. After 2 laps, they're already there.
For teams that have won together for a long period of time, what do you think it is about those teams that have caused that repeatable success?
I think it's very important to work with the same people. If you look at the teams that have a lot of success, it's because they have been united. They have been always together. They have been working through the bad and the good times, and this is what has made them stronger and winning. But not winning because you can always have a team that wins 1 year, but it's the fact that you repeatedly win that makes the difference, and that's people. Teams are made of people, and that's the key element really, is the consistency of the people.
And even though it's, 2 drivers, these teams are huge.
Well, the reality is that those people, most of them produce, design, manufacture, and develop those 2 cars, during the year. So
these cars are custom made from scratch every year. These are not cars you can go buy on the market. You have to make, design, come up with every component on your own.
Yeah, the level of development in Formula One is amazing. If you look at our car, for example, from the first race we started in Australia to the last race in Abu Dhabi, 70% of the car will be new, will be different.
Yeah.
So this is the rate of development, it's just like, and everything we change is changed to make the car faster. And it's not like, wow, look, we changed this rear wing and it's suddenly 2/10 or 1/10 faster. No, we're not looking at tenths. We're looking at milliseconds. Every millisecond counts. So, every race we introduce like 10, 15 components new, and every component has some milliseconds that they are contributing to that 10. And the car is around 2 to 2.5 seconds a lap faster. And if you achieve that, you have a chance of being world champion.